This morning on BRN Finance, on average, Americans are paying $50,000 for a new car. Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Ray McGrath is an automobile enthusiast. Ray, always great to see you. Thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
Oh, glad to be with you, Jeff. You look marvelous.
Oh, thank you. Happy, you look wonderful too. I don't want to, it's always great to talk to you, and I think the audience really enjoys all the deep knowledge you have. You have a different profession, but you have so much skill and knowledge around the automobile industry, so we're always thankful to have you on the program. Ray, I want to ask you about this because new data from Edmunds shows that Americans spend, on average, $50,000 on a new car, and that's going to go up. So I want to get your reaction to that.
Yeah, I mean, we all hear, inflation may have come down, but over the last 3 years, the cost of living's up 25, 30%, depending on what you look at, and more technology is going into cars. So, and wages are up. So, at some point, the consumer has to pay for all of that.
And we're going to get to that a little bit because there are some changes, I think, at the in terms of ratings, in terms of like some of these, blind spot, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But look, I can tell you, my wife and I have one car, and that car is nowhere near, and we got it last year. That car is nowhere near $50,000. So I'm wondering what people are buying, and are they extending themselves beyond their means?
Well, some are because, car loans, used to be a 3 or 4 year car loan. Now it's pushed out 5, 6, 7 years just to make the payments affordable. I mean, I just read a story. You can lease a Cybertruck, no money down, 2-year lease, $3,700 a month. That's a house payment. That's more than a house payment.
I mean, I would say that's rent. That's a lot of money. Who is leasing that car?
I'm not sure. Yeah, not the brightest. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, let's not insult the audience because there may be someone out there. Ray, let's there has been an interest in electric vehicles, and hybrids. Does that kind of factor into this? So people are buying those cars. They tend to be a little bit more costly as well.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely, any type of time there's new technology, there's a higher hurdle cost, but the government incentives have helped bring the price down. But I read another interesting statistic. Almost half of all EV owners are upside down in their leases or their payments, primarily because companies have, like, Fisker has kind of out of business. Tesla's cut prices. So, you don't want to buy a car for 50 grand today and then they lower the MSRP to 45 a week later. That hurts,
So when you say underwater, you mean that the residual
So
value,
yes, they owe more than the car vehicle is worth.
Okay, so
and a lot of times you can roll that loss into your next lease payment, but it's almost like a chemical dependence. You really got to get out from underneath it at some point.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it could be, this is any type of asset. You don't want to be underwater. You want the asset to appreciate. But Ray, typically car values do depreciate over time. That it's a depreciable asset.
Right. So theoretically, you put enough down and your payment's enough, and it kind of, some vehicles, I'll say good things about Honda and Toyota, they retain their value. Jeeps, for the most part, like a Wrangler was one of the highest retail or resale values. But other vehicles, it is a depreciating asset. It's not every day you're going to stumble across some kind of collectible car. You might like it, but, in 5 years, it's a 5-year-old car,
Yeah. And Ray, just to kind of close out this part of our conversation, let's talk about some budget lessons. I mean, someone's going out to buy a car. $50,000 just seems like a lot of money for an average American to pay for a vehicle, even if you get all the bells and whistles. I mean, how do you evaluate whether or not it's the return on investment makes sense?
Yeah, I'm not sure the return on investment would ever make sense, to be honest, Jeff. But I know folks who have you have to shop around. My friend was diehard brand X. He went to brand X. The deal he thought was okay until he went to brand Y, and the deal was so much better. And he ended up buying a Toyota.
So the takeaway is that you don't necessarily have to be brand loyal. There's no reward for loyalty.
Yeah, I think it's important to at least do a little research on the marketplace because you'll find other manufacturers have incentives while others may not. And, right now making the headlines is Chrysler has a huge inventory of vehicles on their lot, probably for a good reason. But, maybe if just because the price is low, maybe that's not the vehicle you want to have for 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. The maintenance you have to think about, the car insurance that we've talked to you about, and Ashley King from State Farm. There's a lot of things that go into owning a vehicle. It's not just that monthly payment. All right, Ray, let's switch conversations, because there's going to be the U.S. government, our friends in the federal government, are updating safety ratings to include blind spot warnings and pedestrian detection in their vehicle crash ratings. Your reaction to that?
I think as a legislator, it's easy to say, hey, the technology is there. It's almost like tire pressure sensors, it's now ubiquitous for the most part. So, I mean, but it adds to the cost. Those sensors might be in your mirrors or your headlamps and what have you. My friend's headlight just broke on his Hyundai, and it was a $3,000 headlight, which kind of hard to believe, but that's part of the reason. One of the biggest parts of inflation that just came out, the October inflation number, was auto insurance is up 14% in a year. I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but all this technology comes at a cost.
Yeah, it does. And if it's in the ratings, that means that U.S. government is rating it, assigning a value to a vehicle, and it's almost like a requirement. So you have to add blind spot sensors. You have to add pedestrian detection. That is adding to the cost. And in our first part of our conversation, that's what's getting baked into the $50,000.
Right. But, as time goes on, manufacturers evolve. I mean, now anti-lock braking is ubiquitous as well.
That's right.
And it really doesn't come at a much higher cost. So I think there's the initial cost to getting this technology, but once it's integrated into the platform, it becomes somewhat cost effective. And, think of all the lives that have been saved by a lot of these technologies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the data from the NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Last year, nearly 41,000 people died in traffic crashes. And people, with texting and driving, and people here around Charlotte, Ray, you got to see, they zoom like I was living in New Jersey, driving around, and people don't necessarily always signal. So I think it's everywhere. The number of crashes is going up, potential deaths. So certainly these tools are very good to help prevent, but that shouldn't take away from driving respectfully and driving cautiously.
Right. No, I agree with you 100%, Jeff. But, GPS, while it's great, it is a distraction a lot of times.
Well, I hate that. I hate I hate when I'm listening to music, Ray, and then the GPS comes on and says, in 50 feet, you got to make a left turn. It just ruins my mojo and gets me out of sync.
Well, you shouldn't be listening to Grateful Dead burning things with the windows closed.
That's true. Ray, we're going to have to leave it there. Always great to talk to you. He's kidding, folks. Always great to talk to you, and we look forward to having you back on the program again next month.
Thanks, Jeff.
And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place. Details, of course, at our website. And we're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.